This is James from GameFront, and I'm gathered with Matt Higby. He's the creative director of PlanetSide 2.
Yes, sir. That's right.
Awesome. So today we got to take a look at the PS4 version of PlanetSide 2, and it looks pretty slick. I like it a lot. One thing I wanted to get into first off is just your experience porting something from PC to PS4 when putting it in context of working on PS3 ports before.
Well, it's certainly significantly easier from a hardware perspective to pull a game from the PC over to the PS4 than it was to do it from the PC to the PS3. The architecture of the PS4 is much more conducive to you being able to very easily bring a game over from the PC. So that's actually been really fantastic. Our biggest challenge on the PS4 has been getting the user interface feeling great. You know, when you have a game as massive as PlanetSide 2 with as much functionality and as much kind of, things that you would need to be able to readily access. I need a map and I need a squad's voice over IP button, all those different kinds of things that I need access to. Getting that to work well on a gamepad and getting the interface to feel like it's not a console port, but a native console experience is very, very challenging. And that's been where we've been kind of putting the majority of our effort in terms of design. On the engineering side, they've been spending a lot of their time on optimization and making sure that it's running on the hardware very well. On the design side, we've been spending a lot of our time on how do we make it as accessible as possible and how do we make sure that the experience when navigating around in the game and navigating around in the user interface is taking place via the gamepad.
Cool. And one thing that's different about the PS4 DualShock controller is the touchpad. Has that been helpful in finding ways to map all the functionality?
For sure. I mean, the touchpad gives you a lot of specific kind of hotspots that you can bind to different functionality. So, like, right now you have a little keyboard that you use to be able to type in commands. And to bring that up, you tap on one area of the touchpad. But players are eventually going to be able to bind different shortcuts that they feel like are their most important shortcuts to those buttons on there. So if, for instance, you want to be able to really quickly shoot out the thank you voice message, right? You don't want to have to go through the menu to be able to do it. You want to just be able to say thank you really quick. Well, you should be able to bind that to be able to tap very quickly on that thing. Right now we're using it a lot for navigating some of our interfaces that haven't been fully converted over to being console friendly yet. So much of our interface is mouse keyboard based since it's a PC game. It's coming from a PC game. Having that touchpad to be able to navigate has been a great shortcut for us when, like the map hasn't been made console friendly yet, but we have a touchpad we can use to zoom in and out and click on elements on it. And so it actually allows us to more quickly iterate on concept and building out things in the game without having to have the user interface completely console-ified yet.
Cool. And one thing that I found interesting, I didn't realize that you already had an Android and I think iOS program so that you could have a map on your tablet and be able to, or maybe I'm wrong, could you explain that functionality? And is it going to be on the PS4?
Yeah, so we do have an iOS app and a Android app right now, and it does give you access to things like what you would expect to see in a companion app, right? I want to be able to see my character stats and my squad's stats and my friends and all that kind of stuff. But in addition to that stuff, we have some very cool dynamic functionality that PlanetSide 2 is a persistent game. It's always running, so we have real-time persistent information in the app that you can see. So just as an example, maybe you're looking at your app and you see that a base that you care about got captured. You could actually go on to your voice over IP, call your outfit up, and be like, hey, guys, you guys all need to get to this base and try to hold this thing. We don't want it to get captured, you know? And that's a kind of interesting, like, dynamic functionality in a companion app that I don't think anybody else really has.
Yeah, and so you are able to see, is it a live vision of the map from the game that you're playing?
Yeah, exactly, from the server, right? So if you're a Connery player, you can look at a real-time map of each of the continents on Connery and where fights are happening. And again, it's built into our in-game voice over IP, so you can talk to your outfit or whatever straight from there, and it's pretty interesting. There's a pretty decent number of people who use that app, but there's also beyond just that one app, we have spent a huge amount of time externalizing as much data about the game as possible, not just about players, but about what's happening in the world and about all the tuning and balanced data of the game we've made completely public via our Census API. So lots of people have built tools that allow them to do weapons analytics using the real-time data that we're changing. So when we do a tuning change, they just get it right away and they can build out their tools. That data exists for basically every single player and all the different world events that are going on. So if an alert's happening, people have built websites now that track all the different alerts and who's capturing what and who's winning where. People have built websites with massive statistical comparisons across different things that we don't do, right? I mean, they're running their own computations on the raw data and creating some contextualized like leaderboards for different specific types of things. There's lots of websites now where players are building that kind of stuff, and they have access to be able to make those as apps if they want to, or be able to make web apps, or be able to make their own programs. Yeah, so it's very cool, I think, to me, to be able to put as much of the data about the game out there for players to be able to build whatever they want out of it. Because we made our iOS app, but I guarantee it sucks compared to the coolest thing that our players can think of. And the amount of creativity and time that those guys can spend on building new stuff just constantly astounds me with the stuff that they come up with.
There's a couple things you talked about today that's PlanetSide 2 wide. I think one of them's already released and the other might be on its way. First of all, you're changing the way that you're able to direct orders on the map. Could you go into that a little bit?
Sure. That was the mission system. So we're doing a new version of the mission system that's basically going to add some inputs for squad leaders and for platoon leaders to be able to do specific things like set targets for their squad. So maybe you know that there is a deployed enemy Sundrer on the other side of this hill, and it's shitting out tons and tons of troops. So you want your squad to go blow it up. You'll be able to actually go onto your map and set that as a mission priority target, and then everybody in your squad will go see that there's a mission there, and then they get bonuses for actually going and completing that mission. So that's a very simple example, but you can imagine like building out this toolbox of things that players are going to be able to use to construct different types of missions and communicate and coordinate with their squads. That's really what the mission system's all about, and we're just trying to create all the building blocks to make as robust of a system as possible out of it.
And that's not available yet. That's coming soon?
Correct, yeah. So what we have in the game right now for the mission system is the kind of the groundwork for it. So we have a mission system in the game where the server is generating missions for every single player all the time. So when you're standing in this base, if the base is under contention, it'll say, defend the base. If it's not under contention, it'll look at the nearby bases and figure out which one it wants you to attack and send you there. So it's constantly generating and creating missions for players. Now we're just allowing players to have inputs into that system to be able to modify and direct their own missions instead of it just being generated by the server.
Cool, and you've addressed a couple of challenges I've had with getting into PlanetSide 2. From my experience, I get in there and I get destroyed really quickly.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to hear that now there's going to be some incentive for the higher level players to take the lower level players under the wing. Could you explain how that works, please?
Yeah, sure. I mean, PlanetSide 2, to your earlier point, is a very intimidating game to get into, and the main reason is because it's a persistent shared world, right? So when you log in as a brand new player, you're about to go play at a base with the very fucking best people on the server, right? And there's no separation between it. It's not like you're playing StarCraft and you're in Bronze League and, the Grandmaster League players are not coming down to, like, fuck you up when you're in Bronze League, right? Yeah. PlanetSide 2, they certainly are. They're looking for the Bronze League players because they want to just curb stomp them, right? And get as many points as they can.
That's exactly how I feel.
Yeah, it's tough. So it makes for a very intimidating new player experience. You're going up against people who really know their shit. They know all the weapons. They know exactly how to kill you. They know exactly where you're coming from. And it's difficult. The only real way to progress past that is either to just brute force it, right? Like, I'm just going to deal with it and learn, and eventually I'm going to figure it out, or to have somebody help you out. And for us, PlanetSide 2 at its core, at its heart, is a team play game. It's about teamwork. It's about coordination. It allows hundreds of people to work together towards a goal against hundreds of other people. And if you can think of another example of that existing anywhere outside of like real warfare, I'd be interested, because I've been trying to figure out other examples to be able to use. I just don't think it exists outside of the military, where you're really working together with gigantic groups of players and coordinating, or a gigantic group of people against another gigantic group of people. Sports usually cap out at, 15, 20 players fighting against each other at once. We're talking hundreds of them fighting against each other at once. So team play is super critical to PlanetSide 2. And building these tools that help to reinforce and reward players who are doing the team play work is super important. Right now, the reward that they get is they get to be very successful, because team play is overpowered. If they're working really hard together, they're very likely to win, right? We want to actually give them the more concrete reward. Now, if you're a really good mentoring player, you're doing a great job of coordinating your teamwork, and low-level players on your squad are earning tons of XP, you are going to be earning XP too as the team leader, and we want to actually make that be one of the most rewarding roles that actually exists in the game, right? So if the fastest way that you can get to battle rank 100 is by being a really kick-ass platoon leader, or by being a really kick-ass squad leader who's not even killing tons of people, not even blowing up tons of shit, but just making sure that their squad is in the right place to be able to blow up tons of shit and kill tons of people, to me, that would be the ultimate possible outcome. Is now these squad leaders are there, they're helping to make the game better for a big group of players, helping to teach the game to those guys, and they're getting a huge reward for it.
Cool. And the other thing that I've been challenged with is, as somebody that gets killed quickly, my secondary strategy has been spawn a little bit outside so I can come in from the outside, which is the maps are huge.
They're big, yeah.
So we've got a couple new maps. I don't know exactly how many, we call it the Battle Isles.
Battle Islands, yeah.
Would you give a little explanation of what the Battle Islands are?
Sure. So in PlanetSide 2, right now we have 4 full-size continents, and those are 8 by 8 kilometers, 64 square kilometers of gameplay space. They're very, very large. These battle islands are a lot smaller, so they can be up to 8 by 8 square kilometers, but our actual amount of gameplay space that we're going to have on them is probably going to be more like I don't know, 8 to 12 square kilometers. So significantly smaller amount of space. Still fucking gigantic for FPS games, but much smaller than a PlanetSide map, a full PlanetSide map. And the idea is we want to emphasize smaller scale, more tactical gameplay, but also more kind of orthogonal types of gameplay. So
now, before you go any further, you used the word orthogonal a couple times, and I'd appreciate just knowing what it means because it's over my head.
All right, orthogonal. When we talk about orthogonal gameplay, the standard type of gameplay in PlanetSide 2 is you capture bases, you defend bases, and then that's how you succeed, right? I capture as many bases as possible. Orthogonal to me would be doing something against that, right? So like now it's a different type of gameplay that's being emphasized there. And one of the examples that we've used before is PlanetSide 1 had a mini game called the Rabbit Ball. And basically what it did is it spawned a ball in the world, and you could see it on your map, and everybody could see it. You could tell it's there, and it's kind of a competitive objective, right? So maybe we get that kind of objective created in the game, and we say that there's these balls that, or objects that spawn on the battle island, and they can only be transported by harassers, which is our little 3-man buggy, right? And when it's in a harasser, the harasser moves at 25% speed, so it's going real slow. And you got to get this fucking thing back to your warp gate, right? And it's always showing on the map the entire time, right? So people are running around hunting the people who are picking these up. Only people who can pick them up as harassers, so you got other harassers who are coming in trying to blow you up and then pick it up with their harasser and take it home, right? So you can imagine the victory condition now is I got to get 3 of these balls back and we win the continent. It's much different than gunning for territory control, right? So to me, the orthogonal part of that is the territory control gameplay is happening over the entire thing, right? You're playing for territory control at the same time, and that's a victory condition if you get the territory control. But you have this orthogonal objective on top of it too, which brings a brand new layer on it. So maybe you're losing the territory control game, but you manage to sweep in and grab the fucking, grab the thing of the last time. What was it in Harry Potter? The
Quidditch?
The Quidditch thing.
I don't remember what that thing is called. Yeah.
Right, so you can win it the regular way, you can grind it out, win it that way, or maybe you grab that thing and you can score, right? So think about that. It's a cool, pivot almost on what the gameplay is, and now suddenly you're paying attention to more than just one objective. So to us, those type of new gameplay experiences, and when I talk about orthogonal gameplay being part of what we do with Battle Islands, that's sort of what we're talking about. And the sky's the limit on what we can do with that. That's just one example.
Cool. And now I hate to end it on tech stuff, but I think it's exciting. PS4 is coming along good. When it releases, we can expect all of the things that we see on PC to be relatively released at the same time on PS4, right?
That's right. Yeah, I mean, we are endeavoring to make the PS4 game be as close to a mirror as the PC game as possible. The biggest difference being the interface that you access the game through.
So if there's guns available on the PC within a short amount of time, it's going to be on the PS4 as well.
That's exactly right. Yeah, a new weapon or a new vehicle or a new anything, new map, a new camo that gets released, anything will eventually be on the PS4. And our goal is to try to coordinate so that we are updating the PS4 as quickly and as closely as possible to the PC.
And it looked great on the screen. Can you give a comparison? Because it looks as good as it looks on my PC.
If you run ultra graphic settings on your PC right now, and you run it about 1080p, graphically it's going to be identical. The game engine itself is a beautiful engine, and it runs really, really amazingly. And when you see it on a big TV, it actually is. It's pretty astounding, so we're really, really happy about that. Our biggest challenge right now is just getting the frame rate nailed.
I was just going to ask that. I have a hard time seeing frame rate. Once in a while, it'll be like Dark Souls 2. I can see the frame rate difference between PS3 and PS4,
right.
But I couldn't tell. Is it running close to... What is the frame rate looking like right now?
We have a dynamic frame rate in PlanetSide 2, so we don't peg our frame rate like a lot of people. So the question is usually, okay, is it 720 or 1080? Right? It's 1080. We're running in 1080 for sure. And then they're like, okay, is it 30 frames per second or 60 frames per second? Well, it's neither. Right now, our frame rate's very variable. Sometimes it can drop down to 20. Sometimes it pops up to 70, 80. And we've had our what we need to do, and luckily because we're working on a console, so we're working against a fixed piece of hardware, so we know exactly how to optimize the experience to work perfectly well with that hardware. On the PC, that's very difficult, right? You never know how many tracers are going to overload your PC versus my PC versus his PC, right? So we have to go with the lowest common denominator a little bit with the way that we tune our optimization. On the PS4, that's not really true. We can optimize kind of to the razor's edge for the hardware specifically and say, every single person playing is going to be able to show this many players. Every single person playing is going to be able to show this much particle effects, this many triangles drawing, all that kind of thing. So we can optimize very specifically for that hardware and make sure that we have a very consistent experience. But we're probably still going to have a variable frame rate, and that's just because unlike a Call of Duty where you know that you're going to have, 24 people maximum in your match, you know that there's exactly this memory footprint for the map, plus these many people, it's exactly this, so you can always have it be pegged at this frame rate. Ours is more dynamic. We might have 250 people, we might have 500 people in an area, and 500 people in an area is going to hit your frame rate.
Cool. Well, Matt, thank you so much for your time today. Thanks. I feel like I've learned a lot about PlanetSide 2, but I also learned about orthogonal, which I'm going to walk away a better man because of you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Cool, man.